Welcome back to the second part of this essay. Check out the first part if you haven't. But anyways, for this section, it's going to be relatively short since with argument analysis, the good thing is the structure is very similar to what I said before. So the 5Ws and a H structure, that is something you use throughout the entire piece and it stays fairly consistent. So it's going to apply for the majority of this paragraph, but there's just going to be some minor tweaks to the topic sentences and the where part of our analysis. I'm assuming everyone watching this can read my essay. I'm not going to read out every single sentence since a lot of it is just putting the structure I just said into action. So please look over that and see how I analyze using that structure. But again, there's no right answer. As long as you follow that structure in some way, then you can't go wrong. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's talk about some minor differences that you should watch out for paragraph 2. When moving on to your second body paragraph, make sure you talk about how the author changes his or her argument. An argument is not going to stay the same throughout the entire piece. So it's good to identify how it's actually structured. So in this case, I talk about how Astaire moves on to a more future-orientated argument. So use phrases such as turning to, transitioning into, shifting to, embracing a more, and so on. But basically any phrase that shows transition is fine. So in this case, Astaire's talking about the benefits of cashless shopping as fitting for the 21st century, whereas Morricone says this is not the case, and residents aren't ready for such a change. And just with identifying the transition, it doesn't have to be a change in argument. It could be a change in tone, the audience being targeted, or maybe the technique. So all of these are valid points. Okay, moving on. First half of this paragraph. There's two key things I want to point out. First of all, it's how I begin this first paragraph. So in order to achieve her ultimate goal of portraying electronic payments as attractive, often this is what authors do in the second paragraph. So this is a sentence you can use in a lot of essays. And in fact, this is something I used in about 90% of my essays. So something you can definitely note down because it's so versatile. And if you think about it logically, all authors are trying to reach some end goal in their argument somewhere. So it's little surprise that you can use this sentence in many cases. The second thing I want to point out is connotative analysis. So this is when you unpack individual words and do some close analysis on what each individual word means. So in this case, I talk about how rummaging connotes or denotes an inexorable hassle, which may resonate with those who find it inconvenient to shop with cash. So basically the structure for connotative analysis is first you say what the word means or what it implies, and then remember, always bring it back to why. So why was this used? Because it was an aim to resonate with those who find it inconvenient to shop with cash. This is definitely something that can boost your essay from 9 to 10. And throughout this paragraph, I used multiple examples, but don't feel like you need to use this technique in every single little chunk that you do. This was purely for example purposes, but you can see what I'm doing here. And with the next section, how I talk about breeze and what that connotes, again, that appeals to busy customers as well. So have a read through that and see if you can follow along with the structure. Apart from that, this chunk here is using anecdotal evidence, so a bit of a transition here. And again, the first sentence, it's a great place to put in a where. So why is she talking about her personal experiences? Because she wants to reassure skeptics that she's not assuming everyone's preferences. And moving on to Morricone, even though he shares a different style, so conservative versus more progressive like Astaire, he uses a similar technique or techniques, so connotations and anecdotal evidence. So you can see how if you have two different articles, there are still plenty of similarities. So he uses the word rush, which might have connotations of recklessly progressing towards change. And then he also backs this up with anecdotal evidence that his mother relies on cash. So both these things, good points of similarities, and then always finish it on why. So clearly here, it's an aim to depict Astaire's ambitions as inconsiderate and not catering for the needs for people like his mother. In other words, more elderly citizens. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Two key things to take away: connotative analysis and also the location. So where and when arguments are located, and feel free to use those phrases that I've used in this paragraph I've used them for a purpose because they can be transferred into different essays as well. So hopefully that makes sense. And summing everything up, here's my linking sentence. And I've just shown another way to link your paragraph. This way involves me talking about what the audiences are left to consider at this stage. So a bit different from paragraph one, but again, it doesn't really matter how you link. I personally wouldn't put too much emphasis on the link. Just make sure it's there. So use the simplest thing that you can think of. Okay, so that's paragraph two.